computer.
Okay.
Sorry to talk so much there. Is there any questions that you've got?
No, it's yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah. Can you hear everything okay? Are you feeling comfortable? Have you got what you need?
Yeah, I've got my couple with me as well.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I'm really grateful for your time, and it's always a pleasure to have these conversations. Just before we begin with the questions that we've kind of planned, would you just be kind enough just to speak to me a little bit about like who you are and like what you do?
So my name is Kamla Pattni. I'm volunteered to be a community ambassador for the National Academy for Social Prescribing with Sarah Payne. I do various other things. My history has been in work-wise has been in social housing for more than three and a half decades actually. And then I left and started Celebrate Our Similarities, which I'm sure you noticed behind me very visibly. Is a community interest company, and that's what I do now. So it is very related to social prescribing. It is all about sharing good practice examples around what makes us human. So we cover two key themes, and that is peace and climate. And these are the two key issues of our time. And I think Leicester's uniquely positioned for it, for various other reasons, which I can maybe cover later. But in a nutshell, that's what I do now. That's my sort of focus. It's we've deliberately not been applying for funding because I've always known that this is an area that's not easily understood, and funding organizations don't particularly prioritize this. But what I do know is that the plan that we have can work and is so needed. And I think its time has come, particularly since COVID. But so we're now ramping it up, and being part of the social prescribing community ambassador, I hope, is going to connect quite well with that.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful that you do this work. As you know, it's like deeply important, deeply urgent work. And based on your own understandings and the ways that you connect to that work, would you please be willing just to take your time and enjoy talking a little bit about your why and why it is that you do this work, what motivates you and what drives you? Why is it that you do what you do?
Okay, so my sort of background has enabled me in a way. It's a rich background in the sense that my grandparents were from India, and my mom and dad were from India, and then they moved to Africa after the Indian independence, when and one of the things that was part of that deal was that you get a dual passport. When my dad passed away when I was only 4 months old, my mom, well, she had to bring up 6 kids. Anyway, that's sort of showed me a wide view of life in a different country, as well as when I came here, and then the disparity of how to settle in and as a child. I was more able to change, whereas my siblings weren't so much. And watching the disparity in opportunities as a result of that in itself was quite a learning curve for me, which I didn't realize at the time, but when I look back at it, I can see why. And that sort of instilled, and my mom always instilled in me, right from wrong, and sort of having seen her struggle immensely. Because just as a side, in Africa, 6 kids to bring up as a single parent, you can't go to work because women didn't go to work. There's no social benefits of any kind. You rely on family. to help, and that's all there is to it. And you know, I'm so proud of her. In fact, she's passed away last October, and that's just convinced me that Celebrate Our Similarities, which is inspired by her in the first place, I'm really now keen to ramp it up. And yeah, so that's really my why. That's how, you know, and I've seen through my working life particularly, I've seen disparity to the extent that unfortunately I've had to go to tribunal twice because I can't stand unfairness when I see it. And when I was actually experiencing it, I found it difficult to stomach that. And for me, I have to do something about it so that even if I don't win, and I didn't win either of those cases, they were virtually settled. And their stories in themselves about the disparity of how tribunals treat people, you know, and all of that. And after I left, so I left work as a result of that. And that's what sort of motivated me to look at impact that is for good, you know, without all the politics and all the inequalities and all that. But those are the kinds of things that we're covering in Celebrate Our Similarities as well. So
thank you so much. And so just to kind of continue along this train of thought, to give you an opportunity just to talk a little bit on the importance of the work that you do. I appreciate you spoke then about your why, your personal why, you know, part of your trajectory and story and lineage. And would you be able to just speak a little bit about, you know, why you feel so motivated to do the work that you do in terms of why you think it's so important?
So I think we're in a unique time, and I feel like I'm in a unique city right now. And I just feel like, yeah, like you say, the urgency of change is just so paramount in people's minds in so many ways, you know. And I think I'm sort of uniquely positioned, actually, that I'm independent, and COS is independent. We have 2 directors, and I'm volunteering in things like the community ambassador role on a personal level, but it's also related to COS's work. And I'm sort of volunteering with the NHS on the mental health collaborative for Leicestershire and Rutland as well. And then I'm on a board for the Canals and Rivers Trust, and connected with the City Council and various other things. Is just bringing together all of these unique features of Leicester at a unique time. And people are beginning to realize the potential of what we're talking about. So, for example, in February, I mean, we've been incrementally having larger and larger events. And the first one for 2023 for us in February was when Sarah Payne, our regional lead for social prescribing for the NASP, was one of the speakers there. And I just got all the different agencies together to talk to the voluntary sector. And, you know, we have the City Council, we have the university, NHS, about 30 to 50 odd organizations and individuals. We had about 100 people come together within 4 or 5 weeks, which just goes to show the level of not even enthusiasm, but the urgency, like you say, the urgency that people, this was a daytime event, and a number of people took days off to come to it. Now that is saying something, you know, and the atmosphere was just electric. I mean, people are still talking about it around Leicester. And I think that justifies, in my mind, not just justifies, it actually demonstrates clearly that there is a gap in understanding between the needs of the voluntary sector and the communities that they support and the agencies that provide the services. That was clear message that I got from there. And, you know, this is what COS wants to do, is actually enable people to get together and create opportunities for social impact. And I mean, my personal thing, sorry to go on a little bit, my personal thing is that because I know that Leicester is so uniquely positioned, because you probably heard that during COVID, we had the most lockdowns in the country, highest level of impact of COVID within the communities. And at the same time, during that time, we also had bad practices in the low-paid hosiery industry, particularly, and which caused, you know, more impact on COVID because of the lack of safety rules, you know, compliance and whatever. But before that, Leicester had so many positive things, and we want to bring them back. And yeah, and the fact that the De Montfort University, my old university, is the international hub. First time in history, the international hub for Goal 16, SDG 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institution. Now, how amazing is that? And for me, I want to do something from the grassroots level that brings about a spectacular project that when subsequently some other university around the world takes on that mantle would want to emulate, you know, because if you're going to make change through the SDGs, we have got to work together and do something spectacular that motivates people to make change happen. So, sorry, going on.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kamla. I really appreciate you sharing all of that. That was, you know, very valuable and very much appreciated. So I'm going to move on to this second question then. So you've already touched upon a number of these, but just to invite you to feel free to speak about whatever you feel most motivated to. Are there any particular issues, experiences, or organizations, or anything else that you want to speak on that have changed your life and contributed to you being on the path that you're currently on?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think my upbringing has been a critical part, and just not my upbringing, but the life experiences that I've had, bringing up kids as a single parent, that has impacted me. And my experience in, like I was saying, I've had to go through 2 tribunals and then leaving work, which I had no intention of leaving. I absolutely enjoyed doing housing development work. My intention had been to work past my retirement age, but because of the and this is a reality, we have to face these. And I know a lot of people might say, well, this is not a place to mention these kind of things, but it is. This is the reason why change is not happening, is because people are made to feel uncomfortable in the wider context. That I had an abusive manager, and it was very clear, even through the tribunal, the issues that, you know, the witnesses that I named, they actually made statements that were just so clearly abusive. You know, they were supporting my position. I think 11 or 12 of them. And that's rare for people to stand up, you know, and say that. They're written statements, by the way. And still, how the tribunal system is what created a new circle of issues that made me think, how deeply closed is this whole system that enables a public authority to spend so much money to defend something that's indefensible, really, and then they still come out of it, you know. And just as a side, this is something I've always wanted to say, is how can there be a situation where I ended up being offered to take a payment from my own side, my own insurance company? Why would they do that? if they know that I'm going to win, which they did, that's why they were supporting me. Why would they do that? That's enabled me to realize that the depth of the issues that we need to resolve are so deep. And I'd like to, and I don't want to do it in a context of antagonism or being some kind of warrior for change or whatever. I want to do it on the basis of, let us talk around the table and actually connect with our humanity. Because if we don't connect with our humanity, our future generations haven't got a future. That's the truth of it all. So that's where my ambition for this is now completely focused.
Thank you so much. What are your hopes for the future? And what do you believe is the key to us creating those changes as humanity?
Okay, so the reason why I sort of got into this whole idea of peace, which was way before the UN international hub status, something that, like I said, my mom had introduced me to, the UN and Global Peace Ambassador that has influenced my way of thinking over the years from a young age, that my mom introduced me to, is having such an impact around the world and had a significance in Leicester. And I believe, in my strong view, based on my own understanding and actually application of peace education method of living, consciously living and understanding things, is having such an impact right now all over the world, and Leicester doesn't even know about it. And I'd like to bring all of these key issues that I mentioned, that the City Council has a priority here, the Canals and Rivers Trust has a priority, social prescribing has a priority, mental health is a big issue, inequality is a big issue. We've got a United Nations hub status, and this peace ambassador has a history with Leicester from 1971 as a teenager. Now, that is what I think can be the catalyst for change. If we can bring together some of the stuff that I've developed as an idea, and you get the leadership behind it, we really can make an impact on a global level, but from a grassroots level. That's a key thing for me. Grassroots stays grassroots. Leaders do not take over and say, right, okay, you've got a good idea, we'll now take over because it needs big people and professionals and money and whatever. No, the idea needs to stay clean and grassroots. And that's how I see the future. That the social prescribing is a good example of looking at the betterment of humanity away from the medical model, because that is what social prescribing is. And that excites me, to be honest. And in a way, that's a good way of ending that question, answering that question.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So with all of that context there, when you think about your role as a community ambassador, like, why is it that you have chosen to give your time to being a community ambassador?
Why? Because, I feel very lucky to be in this position now. And like I was saying, actually the abusive manager that I had has actually done me a favor, a huge favor, because it's given me a complete focus on what is my why, as you were asking before. That has completely crystallized my why and given me the impetus to do things. And I would never have offered to become a community ambassador on a voluntary role, so I wouldn't have had the time, so these are the real sort of you know, motivations that have landed on my lap. So I am totally appreciative of my position, being independent and being flexible and being able to communicate, being of a BME population. So Leicester, for example, the other uniqueness of Leicester is that since the 2021 census, we are 59% of the population in the city is BAME, and yet the BAME population is underrepresented in the city. How does that happen? 59% of the population is underrepresented. And I've watched that happen slowly, in slow motion. I know how it's happened. It's when you raise issues about disparity, you get called either aggressive or pulling the race card or chip on your shoulder or whatever, all of those things. I've watched that. So what I'd like to show is that, no, it wasn't that. The facts are what they are right now, and how we can work together so that people actually learn, so that we don't repeat these things. We seem to be repeating unfairness in different ways. We just find different ways of us and them in different ways, and how can we, so I think this is the way that we can actually start making an impact globally. And because we've got so many communities living here in Leicester, imagine that when somebody's motivated to make change happen and they talk to their families across the world, what that could mean for making social impact happen for good for the future generations. So,
excellent. Thank you so much, Kamla. So that was absolutely such a real honour to hear you speak about your experiences and your these issues, which are so important, and the work that you're doing. So I'm really, really grateful that you're doing the work that you're doing. I really appreciate personally the importance of the work that you're doing, just based on what you've shared with me today. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we end this interview?
No, I think it's been great to speak to you as well, and I just feel like you sort of relate to the stuff that I've been talking about. So that helps in opening up and talking freely as well. So I appreciate the way that you enabled that to happen as well. And apologies for my son going past behind me. But
that's all good. That's fine. That's keeping it real.
That's life, exactly.
No, I mean, I'm going to go now, Kamla. I'm going to send you an email with this recording. I just want to say genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I really wish there were more people in the world like you doing the work that you're doing. Personally also engaged in various different projects that aspire to achieve similar things. And, I do feel that there is cause for hope and cause to keep going. I believe that you're making a difference. I believe that we're making a real difference. So again, deep gratitude.
There are loads of people like that. I think that's the thing. People don't speak up because they're too busy with their jobs and they don't have the time. And this is why I feel lucky to be able to just run with it. Thank you.
Respect. Okay, my friend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll send you this as an email.
Thank you, Simon. Thanks.
Take care. All the best.